Thanks, Bethany. We are in the darkest days of winter. The UK is facing a cost of living crisis and a winter of strikes. The conflict in Ukraine is not going to be resolved anytime soon. Things are gloomy. But the United Kingdom is a pretty happy country. According to the World Happiness Index, we are ranked 16 out of 146 countries. What is meant by happiness? How is it measured? And how can you use happiness to do the most good? Dr. Michael Plant is founder and director of the Happier Lives Institute and joins me now. First of all, welcome, by the way. Do you have any idea how, in this happiness index, it is calculated that we are 16th?
Yeah, so from the World Happiness Report, you just simply, people are asked 0 to 10, how satisfied are you with your life, from not at all to completely. And it's from these data that people now know that the Scandinavian countries are happiest in the world. It's a measure of life satisfaction, which is slightly different from happiness, which is how you feel. So life satisfaction is a judgment of life. And that's how we end up with our ranking.
I think it's Finland that quite regularly comes out number top.
Yeah, so the Scandinavians are the consistent winners on the life satisfaction chart.
And, this is puzzling to some of us because alcohol there is extremely expensive. And in the winter, it's extraordinarily dark. And in the summer, you can't get to sleep because it's extraordinarily light. So why is it, do you think, that people there, and indeed people in Britain at number 16 in the chart, are feeling some sort of contentment?
So the World Happiness Report breaks it down into a number of factors. I'm not sure of which I can remember all of them, but it's looking at income, trust, quality of government, measures of corruption. But I think the story for the Scandinavian countries is that they have quite generous welfare states. It's quite easy to live a good life. There's a good sense of cultural unity, and these are the sort of things which contribute to feeling like life is going well overall.
Yes. I don't know how much people are aware of these things, but it seems to me that things like a raucous free press, absolute freedom of expression, well, with the occasional cancellation here and there, relatively low levels of corruption, the rule of law, democracy, which means that if you're very unhappy with your government, at least you can look forward to the moment at which you get rid of it. All these things, it would seem to me, would make one feel more content.
Yeah, so very often the happiness research tells us what we already know. So you're just asking people how they feel, and we already have views about what we think contributes to the good life. The advantage of focusing directly on measuring it is that if you can't measure it and put numbers on it, then you can't properly compare it. You can't really take it seriously. No one really knows how GDP is constructed, but we believe in it, and we know that it's good if it goes up and bad if it goes down, or at least that's what we think. So it would be progress if we started measuring how society's welfare was doing in terms of how people said their own lives were going, rather than looking at GDP, inflation, unemployment, and sort of guessing. If we're asking people how happy they are, then all of those surrounding facts of your life get integrated into what you say, and that's how we can better understand what's really important and how we're doing.
In your own work and your own organisation, you place a particular value on spreading happiness. Indeed, you think that giving money or help to other people is a particular cause of happiness for the donor.
Yeah, so that is important, although that's not quite what we focus on. So there is already a whole bunch of research indicating that altruism is good for us, but we focus on the other bit, which is how your altruism can have the biggest impact to others.
Right.
So when we give to charity, we often want to help and feel good, but we tend not to be as focused about the impact our charity has as we would if we're thinking about investing our money or buying a car. Are you getting value for money? So we're taking this sort of combination of ideas that we think we have a duty, an obligation, an opportunity to help other people. But when we do that, we should try and have the most impact that we can. Can you get more for your money, just like you would think about in any other walk of life? But the sort of novel thing we're doing is that we're trying to measure the effectiveness of charities in terms of their impact on people's happiness, which no one has ever done before.
Very interesting. So I have a little bit of money and I'm thinking I might give it to Ukraine or I might give it to Pakistan flood relief.
Yeah.
And you would be able to help me to make that decision, would you?
I could, if you wanted.
Well, give me some examples of things you think are more effective and less effective.
So the thing that we our recommendation for 2022, so I've been doing this a few years. I did a PhD in philosophy, and then I started this organisation because I thought this was a question worth answering. I've now got a small team, and the organisation that we recommend is called Strong Minds, which treats depression for women in Uganda and Zambia. You can, through group therapy, you can treat a case of depression for about just over £100. So these people are not only very poor, but they're also suffering tremendously. And that money can really go a long way. It can be life-changing, allow people to get back on their feet, take agency of their lives. So that's where we think probably your money goes furthest. On the Ukraine point...
Well, sorry, you've kind of scanned the globe, and you think that of all the things we could put our money into... I'm not poo-pooing this, I'm just trying to clarify.
Yes.
You think that of all the things we could put our money into, the biggest result for the money we put in would be helping depression in these African countries amongst women?
So yeah, that's where we've got to. So we haven't rigorously evaluated absolutely everything in the world, but we start from... So one way in which we cheat is we start with the perspective that probably your money goes furthest abroad.
Yeah.
So rather than giving on your high street, I mean, lots of people think that charity begins at home, but I think we should be, that is important, but we should be interested in really getting there, having the greatest impact that we can. And so it's much harder to help people in developed countries. In low-income countries, your money can go a lot further. So one big comparison we did was looking at cash transfers to very poor families. So you might get $1,000, and these would be to families who are living on the kind of the global poverty line. And then we compare that to people who are very poor and depressed, and treating them for depression. And we find that the latter is 10 times more cost-effective than the former. And that surprises most people who think that if you're trying to help those who in very poor countries, then it's got to be poverty. That's got to be the story. But not everyone who's depressed is poor. Not everyone who's poor is depressed. And actually, we think it can be more impactful to focus on treating serious mental health illnesses. So that's the kind of we're sort of comparing in that space. It's I can talk to the Ukrainian point if you'd like.
Let me just broaden it out for a moment. We'll see how long we've got. Give us the advantage of your knowledge of philosophy and of history, and give us some kind of perspective about how other societies have looked at this over generations, over history. Well,
the idea that happiness, how we feel, how we experience our lives, should be important is, I mean, in the Western canon, it goes back to Aristotle and Epicurus. Christianity happens, it slightly goes away, it comes back in with Adam Smith and Jeremy Bentham and the Enlightenment thinkers, Benjamin Franklin. But I mean, there's sort of the idea that what matters is our subjective experience of life has never gone away. It's gone and come out of fashion. A difference now is that we can survey people in large numbers. So these general population surveys haven't been only started happening after the Second World War. So that's when you started to get enough data. And now you can do things like you can look at Twitter metadata and people, saying things which seem more positive or more negative. So it's kind of an old idea which we're rediscovering because there's more information. People are realizing that GDP and just general prosperity seems to have its limits. It doesn't really seem to be doing as much as we thought. We're concerned about the environment, and now that's kind of pushing us to focus more directly on a thing that we would always have taken seriously if we'd thought about it.
You and I are both here today with very cheerful faces, and I suspect we probably are both quite happy because we enjoy what we do. Is there much in that?
Yes. So work is an enormous part of life. The value of being employed is not just the money you earn, but also it's the what you get from your job. It's the social connection, it's the feeling of purpose. So to have a good job is one which has autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So autonomy, you get a freedom to do, scope to manage your own activities. You're not, managed on the clock every minute. Mastery, you get to get better at something. Purpose, you feel like what you're doing is meaningful. And if you have those things, then you'll probably have a good job.
But if you and I are lucky enough to be happy, it's also our duty to spread that happiness to others, which is why people should watch GB News, perhaps.
Well, perhaps, yes. I think we, of course, have an obligation to others, yeah. We should do the best with that.
Very, very, very interesting. That is Dr. Michael Plant.